Hello everyone and welcome to this week's edition of Organic Matters, podcast brought to you by the Irish Organic Association. We're here on a tillage farm in Meath with Zeta and James O'Keeffe, and we've got Michael here as well, who's feeling a little bit out of sorts. He's two and a half, so it's a family farm, folks. So we have the real life situation on the ground here. But Zeta, I want to talk to you first because part of the land here on the farm is yours, and you've recently converted to organic, haven't you? So what was the thinking behind that?
Converted just this year. I'm hoping to grow organic gluten-free oats. I suppose the idea behind it was I recently completed a master's degree in NUIG Galway in Ag Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and I had an idea that I want to develop a product from organic oats. So that's the idea behind that.
And adding value is really important, especially in this day and age for farmers.
Yeah, that's true. So I suppose I'm just toying with the idea at the moment. Maybe organic oat porridge, or I had other ideas, maybe that we could make a granola bar or something like that. The market in that area is quite big at the moment, so I suppose just looking in all aspects of that at the moment.
And how much land are you hoping to sow in oats?
For just over 40 acres in oats.
When are you? Has that been put into the ground already, or when are you hoping?
Due to weather, it hasn't been put in the ground yet, but hopefully once we get a clear spell, it'll be sown.
And is it new to you to be sowing organic oats? Would you have thought of doing it before?
It's new to me, yes. Hadn't thought about it before, but I think Irish weather lends well to the organic crop. It seems to do very well in this location. My husband has grown it in recent times and it's done quite well for him. So. And
any particular variety that is it a different variety as well for gluten free? Does it matter?
It's gluten free. I think Isabel is the name of the crop that's in the ground. Yeah.
Very, very good. I'll leave you in peace because, like we said, Michael's feeling a little bit under the weather. One of those days.
And it was one of those nights as well.
Oh, but that's the reality, though, because I mean, farming, you're juggling everything. You know, you have to juggle, farm life and family life as well.
Yeah, I know he's fine. Generally, he's just quite sick last night, but he's actually a bit better today, so he's coming around. Yeah.
So give us an overview, chatting to Zeta there about kind of the future, some future plans, but give us an overview of, how big is the farm, what's happening on the farm here?
Yeah, so I suppose all up, there's about 300 acres we're farming between myself and Zeta, owned land predominantly, a little bit of leased in land, and my mother has land also as well, so altogether about that. There's about 200 acres in organic, 230 acres in organic, about 70 acres in conventional in my mother's land. That's separate, but I obviously help to manage that as well.
And how long have you been organic?
So I've been organic since 2020. Would have went a little earlier, but I missed the opening, the 3-week opening. I think it was in 2018. You had to be quick off the draw that time. So I've been thinking about it quite a while. I suppose financially and environmentally it made a lot of sense. I suppose financially was the main driver. Let's be honest, in tillage things haven't been that fantastic for some time, so you're always looking to see what you can do to improve things. So that was the driver, and here we are. Yeah. And
people can probably hear the rain has started coming down there. We're in the shed. We have weather conditions. It's April now. It's nearly the second week of April. Has it been a bit challenging?
Yes, and
that's an understatement by the look you just gave me.
Yeah, I'm trying to be positive. It's a little hard at the minute. Look, weather's always a problem, but it's been a particularly difficult 12 months. Last year was really tough for tillage farmers. It wasn't good. We were lucky last year. We got our crops in very early, and the harvest went fairly okay for us compared to a lot of people. But now we have this really difficult spring, so I have a lot of early crops which are now late, and I'm looking at every day, and I don't see a window in the next 7 to 10 days, so I'm getting a bit concerned, all right. But we'll sit tight.
What needs to go into the ground for someone who isn't a tillage farmer, for someone who might not know?
Well, the early crops will be beans, spring wheat, and then spring oats. So they're all beyond the optimum sowing date. Okay, the oats aren't too bad, but beans and wheat are definitely late now. So we just need to get a bit of a break to get those in the ground. Yeah.
And where are they going? Are they going for animal feed, or what are they going for?
So we have some winter oats in the ground. They'll hopefully go to whites for porridge, food grade, or we might potentially get something into flavins as well. Beans will be for animal feed. Wheat tried growing milling wheat last year for the first time ever. It would not be a milling wheat area here. Nearly got there. The protein just wasn't high enough. But luckily enough, there's good value for animal feed at the minute, so happy to let it off for animal feed. So that's kind of the plan for the minute. We'll focus on oats, milling wheat if we can make it, protein crops, and any sort of premium crop. But the animal feed in the organic world is quite strong right now, so planning to sell direct to farmer quite a bit of it. And we're lucky here because historically my father did that conventionally, so we have a nice setup here. We have storage. I have to invest in drying and rolling infrastructure again, but whatever. We have a good start here, so that's it's half the battle, as they say.
And you mentioned kind of getting into organics was, a big part of it was for financial reasons. Has it made a difference to your bottom line?
Yeah, it has. We were share farming for the last while conventionally before we went into the organics. We had been doing everything ourselves, so things changed massively. So yeah, I was looking for something different, and yes, it has helped. But we'll see how this year goes. We're not there yet.
We might make a break for it in the rain. We might just have a look at the solar panels and get a sense of what else is going on the farm.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is another shed.
Yeah,
so
this is a little control room, I suppose. Yeah.
So what am I looking at here?
Well, there's a lot of old gear here related to drying grain and treating grain and moving grain around conveyors, but a lot of that is defunct at the moment. But this is the latest installation, and this is a solar PV inverter. So it turns DC into AC, or the other way around. I'm not an electrician, I don't know, but it makes electricity for the layman anyway. That's all I know. So recently installed this in the last few months. Got a bit of a grant from SCAI, and it's not for my own use. It is to an extent. We wouldn't have huge electricity use here, so it's predominantly for export. So I've put in a reasonably sizable array, and the plan was to export. So I am exporting. I'm not just getting paid for the minute. I went on the ESB to sort me out with a smart meter, a 3-phase smart meter, but they've gone on the go slow on that, and it's going to be 2025. So we're playing the waiting game with this and the weather at the minute. Very happy with it. I have it linked up to my phone with a Wi-Fi router, and it tells me what it's generating at any time. You can even put a euro value on it. It'll tell you what euros it's generating per day in theory. So it's just it's something I was really interested in doing anyway. So I took a bit of a gamble and went ahead with it. And
how many panels did you get?
I think there's maybe 90 panels, where it's 50 kilowatt in sizing. So it's decent. It's 3-phase.
And did you mentioned the SAI grant? Did you go for this? Like, there's a business grant or there's a TAMS grant. Did you go for the business grant?
Yeah, I wasn't eligible for the TAMS grant because I didn't have the demand here. So I was disqualified for that. So I went for the non-domestic renewable energy generation SCI grant. I think that's what it was. So I think it works out around 25% as a grant value, whereas TAMS is 60. But it was helpful. It was very helpful. So happy with that so far. How?
Because people are always put off. They love the idea of solar panels. We have only 14 at home, but I remember we had a farm walk last year, and people loved coming just to talk about the solar panels. So people might be listening and their ears might have pricked. So I mean, was there a lot of red tape? Was there a lot of paperwork? Was it worth doing?
Yes, and a lot of grey areas where you couldn't get answers. I suppose I'm an engineer by day, so I'm good at technical stuff and asking questions. I really struggle to get answers from people that I put any value on their answers. So it took quite a while to figure it out. And in the end, ESB have let me down a bit. They gave me a date in writing for the for the 3-phase meter rollout of Q3 2023. That hasn't happened. As soon as I installed it, they then said it was 2025. So that was quite disappointing, to put it mildly. So I'm working on complaining to them at the minute, but that's falling on deaf ears. So I'm just I'm sitting tight now for the minute. But still very happy I went ahead with it. It'll come good.
That's good. It's nice kind of watching the phone and seeing, I guess, the electricity being generated. Well, on sunnier days.
It is. But you'd be surprised. Even on a day like today, you'll still get decent generation as long as it's bright. And the longer the days, the better. I've even noticed around the time changing there last weekend, big change already. So Yeah, I think it's really good, and anything that makes money that you don't have to get out and do it yourself, that's what I like.
I think a lot of farmers are the exact same. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
one of the reasons I love my solar panels, and I will go in during the day to see. And we have a battery as well. Is the battery charging? How
cool.
much?
Yeah,
What how many stuff should we can we like turn on?
Yeah.
The washing machine or the dishwasher,
Okay,
or charge the electric car, have everything on at the same
Right,
time.
yeah,
That kind of thing.
That's great.
Yeah.
And so you can charge and then use it at night with a battery. Yeah, I don't have that, but that sounds good. Yeah.
Batteries
Brilliant.
are brilliant. And there is, for anyone listening as well, there's kind of two strands. You go to look at TAMS if you want to, but also if you're a business, there's a microgeneration and SCAI grant for that is as well.
It can be just any farm. Anyone can do it non-domestic. You don't have to have a business or company or anything like that. No,
As long as there's a
it's
separate meter to the...
It's just a non-domestic grant, but there's a domestic grant as well. SCAI grant was absolutely easy to apply for.
Yeah.
It's a couple of forms, bang. No, it's not complicated like TAMS. ESB is where you're going to meet your challenges. Yeah.
So there's a heads up for anyone who's interested. There are other bits and pieces going on. We mentioned the weather earlier, and we are struggling a bit with that. But you're also doing miscanthus. But before we talk about miscanthus, the shed we were in earlier. I want to talk about seed, because some organic farmers find it hard to get organic seed. So how do you get around that, or how do you work that?
In my experience, it's not too hard to get seed. It might be hard to get certain varieties, but getting seed isn't a big issue. In Ireland, Fruit Hill Farm in Cork are really good. Some of that's imported seed, of course. Some of it comes from Seed Tech in Waterford. I've dealt with them. Western Seeds in Wales, they're really good. They have a great array and a great brochure. It's really user-friendly. So they'd be the two main ones. And then Glanbia sometimes for the gluten-free oats that we're growing this year, because it's gluten-free undressed for the organic world. And D-Side Agri are my local one as well, so sometimes I can get organic seed through them as well. That'll be pretty much it, but not a big issue sourcing seed if you're organised. It's like everything, you have to be organised. Yeah.
And miscanthus, could we have a look at the miscanthus, because I don't even know what it looks like.
Absolutely, yeah.
Even in because you sell it for bedding, and I've never seen it in
Yeah.
the animal bedding form. So could we just have a quick look at that?
You'll know it when you see it.
Okay.
It's 10 foot tall.
Okay.
So you can't miss it. It's like nothing else.
Would it normally be this wet this time of year?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. When we planted this in 2021,
Yeah.
we had a massive drought, and I was really concerned because this was very complicated and expensive to plant. Like, it came in from Poland to England, and it had to be refrigerated in a truck and kept refrigerated until it
Really?
went in the ground. Like, it comes in rhizomes the size of your thumb.
Yeah.
And so there's all of that crack going on, and then I was warned by the guys in England, don't plant it in a drought, don't plant it. I said, Ireland, I said, April, you'll never have a drought, what are you talking about? Don't worry about it, just bring it on. Then it landed, and we had like a 5-week drought. We were putting on sun cream when we were planting it. It was crazy here at the end of April. So I don't think it's affected it too much. It might have affected a little bit, but it looks good now, so happy enough. Yeah.
I mean, I never thought miscanthus. I kind of feel like I should get a machete and like wade through. It's like feels a bit jungle-esque or something like that. It's so tall. I mean, how high is it?
You might see Tarzan coming down in a minute, just watch out. I suppose it goes up to about 10 foot when it's fully mature. Yeah, this isn't just fully mature, it's probably about 9 foot, 8 foot, 9 foot. But yeah, it's an Asian grass. Some people think it's woody, but it's actually a grass. So Miscanthus sinensis is the proper name, but miscanthus we call it, or some people call it elephant grass, and some people like to call it willow, and they call it whatever.
And why did you plant it the first day ever? Because it's obviously not native to Ireland.
No, there was a bit of a push by the government around 2006 kind of time to push it for energy generation, and they're going to burn it in the power plants, co-fire it with peat, Eden Dairy and places like this. But they incentivised farmers to plant it on what was set-aside ground at the time, which was an EU thing to not plant crops because they had too much cereals in storage in Europe. So in my father's time, in 2006, he planted it, and they paid 50%, I think it was, establishment grant, so it kind of made sense. But the whole market never took off because the government forgot to incentivise the industry to use it, their own power plants like Bordnamona, semi-state. So they just didn't bother. They tried, and it was a little complicated, and because they weren't being incentivised, they just didn't bother. And I suppose there wasn't as much of an environmental push at the time to decarbonise as there is today.
Is it that good for decarbonising as people make out it is?
Apparently in the life cycle of it, from growing right through to use, it's actually carbon negative. Like people talk about carbon zero, but it's actually carbon negative. So it's like timber or wood. It'll sequester more carbon than it emits. So that's fantastic. And it can also be grown organically, which is fantastic. It doesn't need nitrogen. It gets cattle slurry. That's all it gets. It doesn't need any sprays. There's no diseases or viruses that affect it in this part of the world yet, thank God. So we've had that crop out there since 2006 and this one since 2020. So this was a kind of a gamble to plant this just for animal feed, but that started in the energy market in 2006, didn't really happen. It fell out of favour, and loads of people around the country were the same. It's quite a bit down in Limerick and down in Wexford kind of area, Kilkenny. Most of it's gone now, ploughed up. We persevered and started selling it for horse bedding into the equine market in a kind of a small way, and it just developed, and then I decided to plant more specifically for animal bedding. So a lot of it goes for cattle now, but poultry is a big market as well, and it's going really well because it's apart from being an alternative bedding, it's an exceptional bedding. It's way more absorbent than straw. It could be easy 4 to 5 times as good, so you'll get much longer out. You don't be in bedding every few days with straw. Cuts out all that labour, and you're saving costs in the end. Yeah.
Because it was labelled an absolute disaster by many in the tillage industry. Oh, there's the wind. And like you said, was ploughed up nearly everywhere. It was planted very few places. I think there's a convent. I think there's nuns running a convent that grow it still, but they have their own biomass burner.
Yeah.
So you're actually the second person I've heard of who kept it in the ground.
Yeah, very few people did, and it was difficult because people didn't have outlets. We were lucky with good storage, so we could store it and sell it out for bedding, so that's kind of why it's worked for us, the grain stores. But we also burned it to heat the home place with a special biomass boiler that was put in to heat the home house and office. That's since canned, but that wasn't miscanthus' fault. That was bad management, and it kind of rotted from the inside out. But that's another story.
And in terms of its life cycle, then, do you just crop it every year and it grows back? Is that what you do? Or do you have to re-sow it?
Yeah, it's annual. No, it's supposedly a 20-year crop. So that crop out there is 18 years or so now, and it's stronger than ever. There was a lot of misguidance at the start, maybe from Teagasc and others, about it didn't need any nutrients, it didn't need this, didn't need that, but that wasn't true, we found out. So it does need some nutrients, it needs P and K, it doesn't like compaction, and you just need to be careful with the management of harvesting. It's a very small window this time of year to harvest it before the new shoots emerge, which you'll see on the ground there, so you have to just be careful you don't damage those with the machinery.
And what happens then? So you harvest it, you take it in, you chop it all up, and you have to dry it. Is that essentially how it works?
Yeah, basically you try and treat it, I suppose it's like silage. We mow it down with a standard mower, we try and dry it in the field. Like that field is mowed down. There won't be much drying today with the rain falling on it, but it's not like straw. It doesn't soak up water. It's quite a waxy stalk. The water will generally run off it. So it does dry out in the field. We might have to turn it. Then we pick it up you want to get a couple of really dry days, pick it up, and then I can dry it a bit more in the shed with ambient air, which we had for the grain stores. So that works. You need that to control it a bit. Otherwise, it'd be a bit risky. Yeah.
I'm going to talk to you about being a stockless tillage farm in a second, but we might retreat to the Jeep because the rain has started coming down now, and the wind is picking up as well. Ooh. So we're back in the relative safety of the Jeep. What is it called if people are going to be looking for it online, or especially this year when it's so hard to get straw? Where can they find it?
Well, unfortunately this winter I can't help you out. I was sold out last September, before we even started into the winter. Dry bed, we call it. Yeah, dry bed animal bedding. But that's, have an ad in Dundee, or we have a Facebook page. But I don't do a whole pile from online. Apart from that, I suppose a lot of it's pre-sold to existing customers. But we will have some for sale next year, so yeah, that's it.
You mentioned as well, it's not just the miscanthus you're selling for bedding, there's animal feed there as well. So is that all organic? Can farmers get that from you?
Yeah, so to date I've just sold a bit, but hoping to scale up a bit on that now for next winter coming. So combi crops and wheat, beans, oats, things like that. So hopefully I'll treat those or dry them myself and roll them and sell them out to farmers, maybe in half-ton bags or bulk. which we would have done historically anyway. So kind of hopefully we'll do a bit of that, and see how we go.
Would you have a guide price for farmers? I know I say, well, for example, I was paying I think 730 a ton for a pea oat barley mix, and that was delivered into the yard.
Okay, I don't know at the minute. I know a lot of the combi crops would be operating over 600 or 650 maybe out of farmers' yards, similar people. So I suppose I'll be guided by others to get going, and we'll see how we go.
But would it be around a 16% protein? Would you?
Well, I suppose a combi crop mix might. I've yet to find out and do my own, but like protein, but beans and that you'd hope to be more, be the high 20s, but barley might be 10, 11, wheat might be 11. That'd be typical. So it depends on the mix, the percentage mix. Yeah.
And would you sell just oats straight for animal feed as well if people were looking for a ton bag?
Yeah, absolutely, oats or wheat, and have done a bit of that. So yeah, so maybe whole or maybe rolled. So yeah, we'll see how we go.
So what time of year should people be getting in touch with you for that if they're interested?
Well, not just the minute. We haven't even got it sown yet, so it might be 2026, but we'll see how we go next winter.
We were in the yard earlier and you mentioned your father and his involvement in the farm and that he set up the farm.
Oh yeah, well absolutely. I suppose my father would have inherited from his father and him before him, but yeah, my father did a world of work on the farm, and he would have sold animal feed historically, so hence we have quite a decent farmyard, so there's a lot to work with. So I was lucky to be able to be handed that, but very unlucky. Unfortunately, my father passed away in a farm accident in 2013, so I was catapulted into the job at the time. But yeah, no, my father did a lot of work, so I suppose I've been lucky that he went before me.
I have to say, when I was driving up, and it wasn't totally my fault. I was sent in a slightly different way, but I drove past this farm before I knew it was your farm. I thought, oh my God, that looks like some operation. You know, it's very impressive, even from the outside, from the road, and not just its scale, but its tidiness as well. And you can tell a lot of thought has been put in over the generations.
Yeah, well, I suppose you try to do your best with everything you do, but yeah, my mother lives in the home house there, so she enjoys keeping that tidy, and that's her thing. So yeah, I'll get a call if there's something out of place and that needs to be sorted, so that's the other side of it. But yeah, we try to keep the place pretty tidy. It's I suppose just by nature. Yeah.
And then in terms of being a stockless tillage farm and managing soil nutrients, especially being organic, how does that work out for you?
Yeah, that's a challenge. I suppose I rely heavily on imported organic manures. So I import a lot of farmyard manure, some poultry manure for the first time this year, and cattle slurry as well.
And you had a new concrete slab put in. Did you get a TAMS grant for that?
Yeah, we got a TAMS grant and installed just a simple slab, basically, with a runoff tank. For storing farmyard manure that was imported. It meant I could import it in the winter when ground was too wet to get trucks or trailers into fields, and I could put it on a nice concrete slab and turn it and compost it in relative comfort. as comfortable as there ever is turning crap.
Hey, some people love it. I meet people who love composting. It's one of their favourite things to do.
I've heard a good few of them on the podcast. My wife thinks I'm obsessed. I'm a civil engineer by day as well, so I deal with a lot of drainage and foul sewage problems, and then I come home and turn shit for the evening, so she thinks I've got serious problems.
Whatever floats people's boats. I guess then, but in terms of your soil nutrients, do you soil test regularly, or how often would you do it?
Yeah, we would, absolutely. Well, the minimum you meant to is every 4 years, so we do that anyway, and probably go above and beyond if I did something unusual to a field. Maybe you might have a field that was low on boron or potash, and you had to put out maybe a specific treatment for that.
So you're not just doing the NPKs, you're getting down, like how deep are you?
Yeah, you'd be going above that. I think it's the Albrecht test it's called, so I use Porrick Shevlin there in Plant and Soil Solutions to kind of guide me along on that, and he does the testing, so he's great on that. So yeah, we would have applied things like targeted potash, maybe boron, sulfur, and you could be thinking about things like zinc as well, and other calcium and things like that. So yeah, it'd be quite targeted, I suppose. yeah, we've a good bit of land area to cover, and you really want to get it right and maximize what you're doing. Yeah.
Would you ever be interested in going down like the seaweed or the microbe route? Or are you happy with what the course you're on?
I have done as well. Yeah, we applied seaweed last year, and I'll be honest, I don't know if I saw the benefits, but like it's very hard to see the benefits in anything unless you're seriously deficient. But there are low levels of nutrients, so I think they will definitely help. So you just have to trust.
There's a lot of maybe I don't want to say tillage light, but kind of tillage light farmers, and that they'd be beef farmers and they'd be growing some oats, and they might be looking for just some advice from someone who's been doing it a long time. Would you have any kind of words of wisdom for people like that, and maybe kind of exploring other crop opportunities or doing anything like that? I mean, what for you as a tillage farmer anyway? What are your most important elements of what you do here?
Well, first of all, we haven't been doing it that long till we have that many words of wisdom. I've kind of gathered my words of wisdom off people that have been in it a lot longer than I have. So research is huge. I did a massive pile of research before I went into organics, and did all the farm walks and read everything you could read, and rang everyone that would answer me. So that was it. So people, that were at it a lot longer, and I put a lot of value on their experience and words. So people have been really helpful, and that's a very positive experience dealing with organic farmers, so that's been good. In my experience so far, I suppose it's planning is absolutely key, especially when you're doing it at a bit of scale, and having a plan B as well, because things don't always just work out. You need to, I suppose, rely on livestock farmers as well. Like I rely on livestock farmers for farmyard manure, slurry, and then contract grazing sheep in and cover crops in the winter, and that's great for breaking down cover crops, and it's good for recycling the nutrients and eating weeds and all sorts of stuff. Not so good when you get a call on a Sunday and they're in your neighbour's garden or whatever, but they're the joys.
Well, James, thank you very much for that. For everyone listening, you've been listening to Organic Matters, the podcast brought to you by the Irish Organic Association. And for more information on organics, go to www.irishorganicassociation.ie, and you can find all of the podcasts as well on Spotify or your favourite podcast producer, anyone out there. But for me, Hannah Quinn Mulligan, thank you very much, and we'll be back again in 2 weeks.